Was this done by an animal or a drunken guest? The trees in the courtyard of the long-established inn looked utterly wrecked. "Oh, what should we do?" Samantha, the proprietress, murmured in a trembling voice. In just a few hours, a TV crew would arrive for an interview in the courtyard. There was no time to call a gardener. Nor could the staff repair the damage themselves. Watching Samantha, utterly at a loss, I found myself speaking up. Maybe I could do something about this. Samantha's eyes widened at my suggestion. "My name is Jake. I'm 30 years old. I'm currently unemployed. At a turning point in my life, I decided to escape reality and came to this inn for a retreat. It's not my body that needs healing, it's my heart. The inn where I'm staying, the Willow Inn, is a place with history. Its exterior is old, well, let's call it charmingly traditional. It's not that they're neglecting it, rather they've maintained it lovingly over generations, giving it a warm, welcoming character. And on top of that, oh, are you heading to the bath?" I spun around at the sound of a light, pleasant voice and saw a woman smiling, dressed in a subdued green kimono. The proprietress of the Willow Inn is this beautiful woman, Samantha. Her black hair was styled in an elegant updo to complement her kimono, and her almond-shaped, double-lidded eyes gave her a sharp, refined look. With her upright posture and dignified presence, she had an aura of solitude that would keep others at a respectful distance. "But I'm so glad you're enjoying our baths. But please don't overdo it. Make sure to stay hydrated, too. Oh, here, take this." I got it from the vending machine but accidentally hit the button twice, so I ended up with 2 bottles, she said, scrunching her beautiful face in an endearing way as she offered me one of the bottles. There's a warmth to her, a hint of a free-spirited charm. "Oh, no. I couldn't possibly. Here, let me pay you," I stammered, reaching for my change purse, but Samantha firmly pressed the bottle into my hands. Then she leaned close and whispered, "You're staying 3 nights, right? Consider it a small thank you," and with a bright smile, she told me to relax and enjoy before walking away. She is, without a doubt, my ideal type. But when I look in the bathroom mirror, I let out a sigh. With this skinny frame and baby face, there's no way she'd ever be interested in me. The spark of romance that had sprung up in me was quickly snuffed out by the sight of my own reflection. Before any old, painful memories could surface, I shook them off. All right, time for a bath. In the empty changing room, I stripped off my clothes and underwear, rinsed off, and eased myself into the open-air bath. Ah, this is just what I needed. The view from the bath, with its stones meticulously laid, overlooked a wide, green mountain range. Against the blue sky, the mountains looked breathtaking. Nearby, a neatly trimmed hedge added to the soothing atmosphere. Occasionally, I'd spot a leaf floating in the bath, a small charm in itself. I picked up one of the floating leaves and stared at it. For now, it was vibrant green, but having been separated from its branch, it would soon turn brown and wither away. Just one single leaf. At some point, cut off from where it once grew, it would inevitably fade and die. Is my heart going to wither like this too? I muttered softly, sinking deeper into the water. Dinner was a masterpiece. With fresh seafood, local produce, and every dish crafted with care, I felt truly content. After ordering alcohol, thinking I'd have just 1 glass, I was stunned when Samantha herself brought it over. With graceful hands, she poured the first glass from a ceramic carafe into a small cup, smiling softly before stepping away. Her movements, the way she handled her kimono, were flawless, yet. Oh! As I watched her beautiful figure retreat, Samantha stumbled slightly. Then she glanced back at me and stuck her tongue out playfully. I wished she'd decide to either be beautiful or be adorable. Her gestures kept my heart in constant turmoil. I gulped down the rest of my alcohol in one swift motion. With a light buzz from the alcohol, I returned to my room, and before I knew it, I'd dozed off. When I came to, it was the middle of the night. It was too early for the hot springs to be open. I closed my eyes, intending to fall back asleep, but I just couldn't drift off. I tossed and turned several times, rolling around restlessly. Finally, I decided to get up. I'd planned on another lazy day around the inn, so if I got tired, I could just nap later. I'd wait until the baths opened at 5 and watch the sunrise from the hot spring. With that plan in mind, I left my room. No one else was there. Wow, all to myself again? I muttered cheerfully, sinking into the open-air bath. Soon, the sun began to rise in the east. How long had it been since I last saw a sunrise? Maybe I'd never seen one up close like this before. With those thoughts floating in my mind, I felt as though the sun's overwhelming power had infused me with strength. Feeling refreshed by the sunrise, I climbed out of the bath and headed to the lobby, thinking I might read the newspaper. Just then, a scream pierced the air. I turned to see Samantha's back in the distance. I rushed over to her, asking, "Is everything all right?" Following her trembling gaze, I looked out to sea. There was a courtyard. It was an area clearly tended to with great care by the inn staff. Yet, the beautiful view I'd seen just hours ago was now entirely transformed. Leaves were scattered everywhere, and some branches were broken. Whether it was the work of an animal or a drunk guest, we didn't know. But for a lobby that welcomes guests, it was an unsightly disaster. "Oh, what should we do?" Samantha's voice quivered as she murmured. I couldn't stop myself from speaking up. "If it's just this much." I could gather the leaves, trim the branches where they're broken. But Samantha shook her head, biting her lip as I rambled on. "No, today, this morning, the local TV crew was scheduled to come. A celebrity was supposed to be in the courtyard, enjoying some handmade sweets. Even if we start now, we won't make it in time." Her voice grew more tearful, and seeing her like that made my chest ache. Without thinking, I blurted out, "Do you have pruning shears? Any old tools left behind by the gardeners?" Samantha's eyes widened in surprise. "Yes, we do." She looked at me, bewildered, as I smiled back at her. "Actually, I used to be a gardener. My grandfather and father were the ones who used to look after this inn's garden." Samantha's eyes went wide as she exclaimed, "What? We can talk details later. Could you bring me the tools?" "I promise, I'll take care of this." There was no time to waste. I was eager to get started. But Samantha paused, looking me up and down from head to toe, taking her time to really study me. I felt the urge to click my tongue. "Sure. I might look young, scrawny, and untrustworthy, but can't you just let me handle this?" On the verge of tears, I pleaded with her, and Samantha suddenly seemed taken aback. "Oh. No, it's not that, it's just. I can't ask a guest to do work for us." "Wait, that's the issue?" Completely misunderstanding her hesitation, I found myself looking straight into Samantha's resolute gaze. "My deepest apologies, but may I ask for your help?" With that, she bent at a perfect 90-degree angle, bowing gracefully. Despite feeling a bit flustered, I managed to respond, "I'll do everything I can with the skills I have." At my words, Samantha dashed off to retrieve the tools. While waiting, I took a moment to gaze at the courtyard. "Grandpa. Dad, keep an eye on me," I murmured quietly, looking at the garden. Just then, Samantha returned, practically sprinting. "Anne." She tripped on a small step in front of me. "Watch out." I instinctively lunged forward and caught her. The wooden box she was carrying didn't fall, so everything was safe. Feeling the soft warmth of her in my arms, my heart pounded unexpectedly. "Please be careful. If you tripped while holding a box full of sharp tools, who knows what could happen?" I scolded her, hoping it would hide my reaction to the closeness. Samantha looked a little downcast. "Oh. I'm really sorry. I'm such a klutz." Her sharp, almond eyes drooped, looking forlorn. I realized I'd been too harsh. I'm sorry, I was just relieved you're not hurt." With that, I took the box from her. The corner of the wooden box bore a familiar stamp, Smith. It was the mark my family, the Smith family, had passed down through generations. Opening the lid, I found pruning shears, whetstones, and various other tools neatly arranged. When my father completed his final job at this inn, he specially crafted these tools as a gift for them. He wanted the inn to use these tools to preserve the beauty of the courtyard. Taking out the tools steeped in memories, I started by preparing them. Time was tight, but the sharpness of the tools was essential. I gripped the freshly sharpened pruning shears in my hand. Bringing the blades to the tree that had been a beautifully rounded shape just yesterday, I made the first cut. With a satisfying snip, a branch fell away. For just a moment, I closed my eyes, savoring the familiar feel of the cut. Then, I turned my full focus to restoring the garden. I checked the shape of each tree from multiple angles, trimming the branches with care. I gathered the scattered leaves and broken branches, raked the gravel into a neat, even surface. Though the trees looked slightly smaller now, they were certainly an improvement over the devastation from this morning. After a thorough check, I turned to report back to Samantha, only to be startled. She was standing right behind me. Amazing. She covered her mouth, whispering just that one word. And that alone filled me with satisfaction. Amazing. It's incredible. The courtyard looks nothing like it did this morning. No, it's even more beautiful than yesterday. You truly are a pro. Watching her almost dance with joy, I couldn't help but find her utterly charming. Well, I'm an ex-pro, but, still. I took a small breath. Thank you for trusting me with this. With a refreshed spirit, I bowed to Samantha. My heart felt clear and light. Though a touch of reluctance lingered, I handed her the wooden box of tools. Please, continue taking good care of these tools. I smiled as I spoke and then made my way out of the lobby. Just then, Samantha called after me, sounding flustered. Oh. Wait, I want to thank you. I turned around, grinning broadly. No need. I've already received more than enough. Samantha stood there with a puzzled expression, her mouth slightly open. I couldn't blame her. But I didn't feel the need to explain further. With the rare sense of peace I felt in my heart, I headed back to my room with a light step. I briefly considered heading home early rather than staying for the last 2 nights. Part of me wanted to act on this renewed sense of motivation, but another part wanted to relax a little longer. After some thought, I decided to stay one more night and took a peek at the TV interview from the hallway overlooking the courtyard. In the garden I just restored, Samantha and a familiar local TV personality were chatting and laughing, surrounded by 2 cameras. In Samantha's hands was a small treat of sweets. The same kind I'd been offered while waiting to check in. They were small but delicious. It must have been one of the inn's specialties. I hoped the inn would get some well-deserved popularity, and after soaking in the sight of the 2 beautiful women, I returned to my room to relax. Since I'd been up in the middle of the night, sleepiness crept in again. Without fighting it, I let myself doze off, unsure of how much time had passed. The sound of a gentle knock on my door woke me up. Half awake, I answered, and Samantha's voice came from the other side. Could I have a moment of your time? So I immediately shot up. It had only been a nap, but did I have bedhead, or worse, some sleep crust in my eyes? Noticing my clothes were a bit disheveled, I hurried to fix them. Please, come in. My voice came out slightly high-pitched. I heard the door slide open, followed by the sound of the inner screen gliding open. On the other side of it was Samantha, kneeling gracefully with her fingertips touching the floor as she bowed. You've helped us so much. When she looked up, she was smiling. Her beautiful smile had me flustered. Just the 2 of us in the room. Realizing the situation, my heart began pounding wildly. Then I noticed the wooden box beside her, the one I had returned earlier. Gently, Samantha ran her hand over the box and looked at me intently. I'd love to hear the story behind these tools. At her calm request, I found myself nodding. About that, my grandfather was the original gardener for the Willow Inn. Samantha nodded softly as I began to explain. My family's home is about a 2-hour drive from the Willow Inn, quite far away. But my grandfather looked after the Willow Inn's gardens because he and Samantha's grandfather had been friends. Sometimes, he'd bring us along, my grandparents, my parents, and me, to stay at the Willow Inn while he worked. Even as a kid, I loved the baths with my father and grandfather. And I'd practically jump for joy whenever I heard we'd be staying at the Willow Inn. However, after Samantha's grandfather passed away, a series of unfortunate events began to befall her family. At first, the Hot Springs town, including the Willow Inn, was struck by a natural disaster. My grandfather helped with the recovery for free, but once the guests stopped coming, they were slow to return. During that time, my grandfather also passed away. It was a sudden stroke. When my father took over, the contract with the Willow Inn remained, but with the lingering absence of guests. The inn soon fell into financial hardship. Eventually, the Willow Inn informed us that they had to end the contract. My father, feeling grateful to the inn that had treated my grandfather so well, insisted he would continue the work for free until they got back on their feet. However, they turned down the offer, saying it would be wrong to take advantage of a professional gardener that way. And just like that, the long-standing connection between our landscaping business and the Willow Inn was severed. As a farewell, my father brought specially crafted tools, tended to the courtyard, and gifted the tools to the inn. Then he asked that they at least use these to maintain the garden. After that, our family stopped staying at the Willow Inn. Whenever he looked at the garden, he'd feel the urge to jump in and work. So our family trips began to take us to other places. When I finished telling the story, Samantha let out a soft sigh. I'd heard a bit about the circumstances, but I didn't know it was like that. Even though we ended the contract for our own reasons, your family gave us such fine tools. Gently stroking the wooden box, Samantha looked over at me. So, why is it that you're a former gardener, Jake? Forgive my curiosity, but I just can't help wondering, after all. The courtyard looked stunning today. Her question was blunt, but somehow, I didn't feel hurt by it. I ran the business into the ground. I tried to laugh it off, but I felt a prickling behind my nose. I forced a smile to keep from tearing up. My father passed away recently. So I took over, but with this baby face and skinny frame, it was hard for people to trust me. On top of that, I'm not great with words. I started in this line of work after high school, though my father had already let me help with simple tasks when I was in middle school. By 30, I had years of experience and skills my father had endorsed. But since I'd mostly been assisting him while he remained active, our longtime clients, who had watched me grow up, doubted my abilities. I tried to beg them to at least look at my technique, but I couldn't get the words out right. Gone were the days when I could rely on long-term relationships and just keep the work going. Now, even as a skilled tradesman, I needed salesmanship to bring in jobs. And with the rise of modern apartment buildings, the demand for garden maintenance was dwindling. The challenges of breaking into new markets with my lack of sales skills were too much for me. On top of my youthful, skinny, unreliable-looking appearance, I was terrible at talking to people. Since our business was family-run, I had no one to back me up and often got shut down at the door. With my mother having passed away a few years earlier, my father had been handling all the accounting, but now that was neglected too. And the business became unsustainable. So recently, I filed for dissolution, for better or worse. When I finished explaining, Samantha looked down. That must have been incredibly difficult. The genuine sympathy in her words nearly broke me. No, it's my own doing. I ignored everything, sales, accounting, and even my skills, assuming my father would always be around. I suppose I had it coming. But I straightened up with a renewed sense of clarity. Today, working on the courtyard. I realized I still love being a gardener. I'd been wondering whether I should try to get a job under another gardener or switch fields entirely. But now I think I want to give it another shot as a gardener. Thank you for giving me the push I needed. I bowed deeply to Samantha. For a moment, she looked surprised, but then she smiled brightly. Well then, how about working here with us? Her unexpected offer left me with my mouth agape. Ha! At my dumbfounded response, Samantha smiled and held out the wooden box to me. Would you consider taking care of our courtyard using these tools? Would you help me look after this precious garden of ours? The unexpected proposal made me swallow hard. I realize it's audacious to ask after we terminated our contract, but guests are returning, and after today's interview, I expect we'll get more reservations. I'd been thinking of hiring a professional gardener again, so. She glanced at me. If you'd be willing, would you consider working here, Jake? I found myself flustered, unable to respond. No, but if someone like me with this kind of look is seen out in the inn's courtyard, it might make people lose trust. The scars from being judged by my appearance weren't easy to shake. But Samantha laughed warmly. I'm asking you because I trust your skills. I need you. I won't change my mind over something as superficial as looks. Her firm words brought tears to my eyes. However, I'll also need your help with some behind-the-scenes work, aside from the gardening. If that's difficult, please tell me. She added with a gentle smile. I had no hesitation. I'll do it. My simple response made Samantha's eyes widen in surprise. I continued, brimming with excitement. Yes. Please, let me do it. Even with the behind-the-scenes work. I'll give it my all. I'd been eager for this. The hedges around the bath, the trees surrounding the inn. They weren't neglected, not at all. But if I were to look after them, I'd want to clear out the leaves floating in the bath regularly. How would I manage it? How would I shape the hedges around the bath? These were things I'd found myself thinking about more than once. When I shared this, Samantha raised her brows in a sympathetic smile and bowed slightly. I'm so sorry if my amateur care left you itching to get involved. I placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. No. I think you've done a wonderful job. But please, let me use the skills I've developed here at the Willow Inn. And that was how I took my first step as a gardener and support staff at the Willow Inn. A few months passed. I worked as a gardener, and I also helped with kitchen prep and cleaning at the Willow Inn. Every day, I threw myself into the work, tending to the garden, cleaning, and prepping ingredients. Whenever I had a moment to spare, I'd work on the garden trees. Knowing that my grandfather and father had once tended to these same trees only made me feel closer to them. With a gentle touch, I'd talk to the plants as though caring for them directly. The heat's finally easing up, huh? How are you doing? It's going to get chilly in the mornings and evenings soon. While I was talking to the trees, I heard a soft giggle from behind. Turning around, I saw Samantha standing there. It almost makes me jealous. Jake, it seems like these trees are the most important thing to you, she teased, smiling. During my onboarding, I'd learned Samantha was 2 years older than me and, of course, my employer. But she treated me with a friendliness that felt closer than with the other staff. Oh, hi. Trees grow beautifully when you talk to them and give them attention. I stammered, still not quite sure how to interact with her now that I was no longer a guest but her employee. Samantha let out a soft sigh. What do you think? Would help me grow beautifully? She mused, gazing up at the sky with a tone that left me unsure if she was joking or serious. Do you think I'm doing a good job as proprietress? She asked suddenly, and I nodded without hesitation. Samantha's skill and dedication were remarkable. I'd learned that she, too, had lost her parents in an accident. Thrust into the role unexpectedly, she'd used the insurance money from her parents' accident to revitalize the inn. She researched various inns, focused on guest needs, allocated a budget, and even ran advertisements. She served welcome drinks accompanied by traditional sweets, which she also made available for purchase in the lobby. Guests could, of course, enjoy tea in the lobby as well. Thanks to the boost from a local TV feature a few months ago, not only did they see an increase in overnight guests, but also in visitors coming for the tea and sweets set or to use the day spa. She was now exploring ways to expand the sweet selection and looking into selling them online. Through her efforts, Samantha had transformed the traditional inn she inherited into a popular, often fully booked destination. It surprised me to hear her doubt whether she was fulfilling her role properly. Today, I think the inn's fully booked, right? And there were a lot of families in the lobby earlier. I could hear kids laughing. It's impressive. Really? I said, though I was aware my words lacked eloquence. Samantha sighed again. Sometimes I wonder if this is what my parents would have wanted. The Willow Inn was originally a serene, traditional inn. When I stayed here as a kid, and even a few months ago during my retreat, the hot springs were practically private, the lobby was always quiet. And you could read a newspaper in peace. But ever since the TV feature, the lobby has been lively with young voices throughout the day, and there's always someone in the bath whenever I go. The spacious baths still feel calm, even with other guests around, and it's a good thing to have more guests. Yet, it's true that the inn's atmosphere has shifted from its former tranquility. Some even say that by spending her parents' insurance money on these changes, Samantha has ruined what her family built. I resented those heartless words. I think it's wonderful to have the inn filled with voices from people of all ages, I said firmly. Samantha's eyes went wide with surprise. Everyone sits and enjoys tea while looking out at the garden, right? Even if young guests get excited in the parking lot, they quiet down once they're inside. After listening to your and the staff's explanations, they sit peacefully, gazing at the courtyard as they sip tea. Seeing the satisfied expressions on their faces, knowing we've created a calm space for them, makes me really happy. Though the inn can be lively, it's never noisy, it's cheerful. And I think it's all thanks to the welcoming atmosphere you, as the proprietress, create. I love this feeling. Samantha's face turned bright red. What? You love it? Seeing her flustered expression, I paused, realizing how my words had sounded. Oh, wait. I didn't mean, not you specifically. I mean the atmosphere, I stopped, suddenly lost in thought. But then, the words slipped out naturally. No, actually, I do mean you. I've liked you from the moment we met. Samantha's face grew even redder, and she started to panic. Meanwhile, I felt myself growing calmer, my resolve settling. Working here as a gardener makes me happy. But more than anything, being able to work near you makes me happy. My calm words seemed to unnerve her, and she took a few steps back in a fluster. What, someone like me? Just then, Samantha stepped back and nearly tripped over a stone, losing her balance. Watch out! I quickly reached out and wrapped an arm around her back, barely steadying her. Relief washed over me, only to realize her face was right in front of mine. Her face was flushed, and before I knew it, I leaned in and kissed her softly. When our lips parted, Samantha's face was still red, and she gave me an exasperated look. That was a bit forward. I scratched my head, embarrassed. Sorry, it just happened. She puffed out her cheeks. You really like a clumsy older woman like me? The way she asked made me laugh. Yes. That's one of the things I find charming about you. Hearing this, Samantha leaned in and quickly kissed me back. It was brief, not even a second. I feel the same way, so, well, I'll get back to work now. She quickly pulled away, making her way out of the courtyard, stumbling here and there but managing not to fall. Watching her, I felt a mix of amusement and affection. A year later, Samantha and I got married. We held the wedding ceremony in the courtyard of the inn that I tended. It was the same place where we shared our first kiss. A small stage was set up in that very spot, and there, we shared our vows and a kiss. As I kissed her in front of the staff and guests, memories flooded my mind. The family trips to the Willow Inn from my childhood, filled with so many happy memories. The years when the Willow Inn's garden was out of my family's reach, and both Samantha and I suffered so many losses of loved ones. I'd nearly lost my own path as a gardener. But then I met Samantha at this inn, cared for the courtyard, and that led to our marriage. It felt as if we'd been guided here by something greater. And I vowed to cherish Samantha, carrying with me the precious memories of my family, as we continued our journey together.